Welcome to Art by Rick. I'm Rick. Well, today I'm going to do a couple of paintings in my favorite style. This is called fluid art. Now, what fluid art is it's basically a technique where you're going to mix some paints, thin the paints out so that they're fluid, liquid-like, pour them onto a canvas, and then by tilting and turning the canvas, get those paints to spread over the canvas. Now, there are different techniques you can do. There are different ways to lay the painting down or lay the paint onto the canvas. Depending on how you turn it will give you the different designs that you're trying to get. And I hope to demonstrate that with these two canvases that I have in front of me. Now, I'm using a 16 by 20 stretched canvas on a wood frame because it's an easy size to manipulate. You can do much bigger, you can do smaller, you can do all kinds of sizes depending on what you feel like doing. Behind me on the easel over here, I have one of the larger ones that I did a little while back. That was a little bit more involved to twist it because it was a little bit bigger of a canvas. I've done smaller ones. Behind me, you'll see there's a couple on the wall where I took the smaller canvases and did an acrylic pour in a fluid style. And then I just mounted them on bigger canvases so that they really would stand out. But today I'm going to do two. The first one I'm going to do, I'm going to call it candy corn because I'm going to use the colors of candy corn candy. Yellow, orange, and a little bit of brown. I'm going to mix those in my cups, which I have set out in front of me here, put them on the canvas, and then tilt the canvas and see what kind of design we get once it's done. The next one I'll do will be a silver and gold. I like using metallic gold because it gives me a lot of reflection. So I'll use the metallic gold with some silver, enhance it with a little bit of black and maybe some red to give me a nice design for that particular one. So two different paintings, won't take long to do them both. Most of the time is preparation and mixing the paints. So let's get started and I'll show you how I'm going to do that. Now the canvas is placed in the center of my work table. I raised the canvas up on some paper cups. And I think I've told you before many times on Art by Rick, when I'm doing fluid art or an acrylic pour, it's best to have the canvas raised because the paint's going to go off the sides of the canvas. It gets quite messy. And if I do it directly on the table, as the painting dries, it's going to glue itself to the table and I'm going to have a real mess trying to pick it up and, do something with it. So I raise it up. This allows me to tilt the canvas the way I want to tilt it and place it down and allow the paint to flow off the corners if it needs to without sticking it to the table. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to mix paint. Now I use these little cups. I put about half the color of the paint that I want to use and then I add some acrylic medium. This is a pouring medium. So what I do is I'll add half of this to the cup. So it's about 50% paint to 50% of the acrylic pour. And then once I get that in the cup, I'm going to mix this well enough to mix the paints together in order to make it as liquid as I can before I actually apply it onto the canvas. My favorite thing to use is popsicle sticks as stirrers. Sometimes I get tongue depressors from the hospital and I'll use those, but just, simple little sticks so that I can stir my paint. And you have to keep stirring this, twisting it around until the color starts to mix and it starts to rise. You don't want too much of the acrylic medium pour to be the paint itself. I will show you a way that I do this in order to get the paints to really spread across the canvas pretty easily. Because one of the things that happens when you're doing fluid art is if you don't have enough paint on the canvas, it's going to stop and you're going to end up with bare spots and you're not going to get the whole canvas covered. So let's just stir these and then we're going to zoom in and I'm going to show you what I do, how I pour it, and then we're going to make our fluid art, our first painting, candy corn. Now I've put my my apron on here. You can't really see me. I'm kind of off camera because I want to show you the canvas and how I'm doing this painting. I've mixed the paints. I've stirred them in the cups and have my acrylic pour. I've got some paper towel handy here on the side just in case I need it. And I'm going to pour on this canvas and then turn the canvas in such a way in order to get the paints to move over the canvas. It's messy. You could wear gloves. I like to get involved in my work, so I usually don't wear gloves, but my hands will get messy. There's no way to avoid that. Now, in order to get the paints to spread across the canvas, I could just dump them directly on and go with it. But I like to help it move a little bit. So what I usually do is I'll take some of this acrylic pour. This canvas, by the way, has already been pre-sealed with some acrylic gesso so that the paint doesn't soak through the canvas, it stays on the canvas. So I'm going to put some of this acrylic pour onto the canvas. And I'm going to use my spreader here, just a regular spreader tool. And I'm going to kind of spread this on the canvas itself to kind of give it a nice, kind of a liquid, just a liquid base. So when I pour this paint on, it can kind of move easily on the canvas itself. And I'm just trying to spread it evenly. And again, it's going to kind of come off. It's going to come off the canvas. There's nothing you can do about that. That's just the way that it is. All right, so there we go. Okay, so let's just put this aside now. Okay, and now we're ready to pour our canvas. So, candy corn. We have our yellow that I've mixed. And I'm going to put this on the canvas in kind of a zigzag pattern. So here's my, just a zigzag pattern of the yellow onto the canvas. And then I'm going to add orange. So here's my orange, and I'm going to kind of follow the same way that I did my yellow. Just like that. And then a little bit of brown. So I have a little brown here. I'm dotting the brown on because I don't want it to overcome too much of the colors of the yellow and the orange. So there we go. All right. Now the idea here is to tilt this canvas and allow this paint to stretch over the canvas itself. So I usually grab it about midway and I just start to tilt it and allow my paints to flow. So we could just watch the paint move. And make sure I get it to the corners. Tilt it this way. And it's actually pretty soothing because you're kind of just watching this paint just move along the canvas. Tilt it down this way so you can see how it goes down towards the edge here. And then I'll go this way. And now I'm going to take this and I'm going to turn it around. And we'll go this way now, allowing the paint to drip and follow those corners. And as you can see, the paint sometimes is a little bit off camera here, but it does tend to slow down as it's spreading. And I want to get a little bit more down going in that corner there. So I'm just going to let it go. Just watching it turn. Just watching. It's kind of off camera here because of the way I've picked it up. But again, there we go. So there's covering it, making sure it covers everything. So there we go. There's a fluid painting with our yellow and our orange and our brown. And I'm going to call this one candy corn. So I'm going to put it back on the cups here. And as you can see, my hands are a little bit messy. So I'm going to, may have to help this a little bit. There are some areas where the paint really didn't reach to the corner. So I use my best tool, my finger, and I basically just help it a little bit where it didn't come in the corners. Check the sides out. Make sure the paint has covered all the way around. Where it hasn't, I'm just basically tapping it with my fingers to kind of get it to go. And if you get a spot that doesn't necessarily cover well, you can always doctor it up a little bit. There we go. And there's our candy corn fluid art painting. So now we're going to put this aside, let this set up, and then I'll set up and start the other one that I'm going to do on the show, which will be my silver and my gold metallic, which will give us a really nice color mix. Now I'm getting ready to set up to do my next painting. I just wanted to show you the table. As you can see, I moved the painting over to my drying section, so it's put aside so it could dry and be undisturbed. But you can see the amount of paint that comes off on the table. If I had left the painting on the table itself, this would dry, it would get sticky. Now I'm going to do a second painting. To do that second painting, I don't want this yellow and brown to get mixed into the next painting I'm going to do. So what I do is I just basically cover it with paper towel to give me a barrier between the drip paint that's already on the table and the new drip paint that will go on top of that. So I'm going to set up the next canvas and show you my second painting. Now I've set the new canvas here on the table. I covered it with paper towel and put the canvas on the cups, just want to do. And I'm going to pour, same technique that I did before. So I'm taking some of my acrylic pour and I'm just going to pour that onto the canvas and spread it on. Just covering my canvas as best I can. And then I'll get ready to pour my paints. All right, so this one, we're going to do a little bit of red. And I'm going to do kind of a dotting pattern. So here's some dots of red. And I'm going to add a little black to this. Some black. Not too much, just a little bit. I like the black in the corners. I'll add my silver, and I'm going to kind of zigzag with the silver in between the other colors. And then my metallic gold. All right. So there we go with the pour. And I'm going to do something a little different, a little cool with this one. This is a torch. And I am going to hit this with a little bit of heat. What this does is it separates the silicone in the paint and causes what's called celling, or making cells. So just quickly hitting it with a little bit of heat and we'll see how we get this. All right, so let's put the torch aside, and now we're going to tilt this and allow our paints to spread. And again, I'm going this way, and I'm going to bring it this way so that it goes down to the edge. And I'm going to tilt it like this. I know I'm kind of getting off camera here because I'm doing this fast. But there we are. There is some black with the silver, and we got some nice paints there covering it. And I'll put this right here on the cups and clean my hands up a little bit. I'll hit this one more time with the torch. And we'll just do like that. And we'll give it a little bit more of a tilt. We're just letting these paints kind of blend each other together. So that is my silver and gold pour fluid style acrylic painting. I hit it with a torch to try to get some celling in here. I got a little bit on the edges, but not too much going on throughout the painting. I probably could hit it a little harder with the torch, but the idea was to try to get the paints to separate a little bit, and they did slightly, not a lot. But again, here's a gold with some black and red fluid art done with acrylic paints put on the canvas, and the canvas tilted in such a way which allows the paint to spread over the canvas. All right, so now the next thing we need to do is we have to let this one set up and then let it dry, and then we could take a look at it and see how it might look when it goes up on a wall or however we decide we want to use this. And again, it's really important to kind of look at the edges, and if you see anything on the edges where the paint really hasn't covered, you can just use your finger to kind of dab it a little bit just to make sure that you're getting some good coverage here. I'll kind of walk around and take a look at the front part here. You can see where this didn't really cover all the way. So I'm just using my finger to just kind of tap it a little bit, just to allow the paint to kind of go all the way down. I'm just tapping, just tapping, just tapping. There we go. Just tapping. It's got a little bit of white in it, but that's okay. So there we are. All right, let's let this thing set up, and then we'll see what they look like when they're dry. All right, so today I did the two paintings. I took some time while I was off camera to clean up the table, which was quite a mess. There was a lot of paint on the table. Put some new covers down on the table so that I could put the two paintings side by side. This one here is the candy corn that I did with the brown, yellow, and oranges. This one here is the silver and gold with a little bit of black and red. Both of them are on sealed canvases that I did the acrylic pour on, calling this fluid style art. And I was able to tip these canvases in order to spread that paint over the canvas. We tried to do a little bit of cell type work here to get the silicons to separate, but unfortunately they didn't do too well. But it still looks nice. This one was just a plain straight pour. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to step away. I'm going to zoom in so you can take a look at these. I can't lift them up just yet because they're still wet and I really don't want to shift the colors. I like the way that they landed. So let me set this up where you can take a look at each one of these. So as I said, this is just a zoom in on this particular painting. This is the one I'm calling Candy Corn. Again, fluid art. I know I keep saying that. Acrylic paints poured on a canvas and turned so that the paints spread out over the canvas. And I like the way that looked. I think it's going to look pretty cool on the wall when it's dry. Again, I'm showing this as it's laying on the table because I can't quite lift it up just yet because I don't want those paints to move. All right, so let's take a quick look at the other one. So this is the second painting that we did. This one was the gold with silver with just touches of some black and red. I tried to do a torch technique to do a little, create some cells. Unfortunately, it did not separate the way I wanted it to, but it still looks very nice. So I'm going to keep it the way it is. I'm not going to fuss with it too much. And again, just like with the other painting, I'm showing this to you flat on the table because I don't want the paints to move. I like the way they laid out. So we'll let this sit and we'll let this dry, and then we'll take a look at it when it's completely dry on the wall, probably at the beginning of the next Art by Rick show. Fluid art is very simple to do. It's one of the painting styles that I enjoy. You can get all different types of looks when you do fluid art. It's also very easy to set up and decide what you want to do. I mean, really the more difficult part is just picking the colors that you want to use. But you must make sure that you mix your paints thin enough to allow them to spread over the canvas. Otherwise, you're going to have some dead spots or you're going to have paint that's just not moving. As you saw what I did on the show is I took these prepared canvases that were sealed with acrylic gesso, and I put the medium or the pour, the acrylic pour on the canvases and spread it out to give it kind of a liquid base. Then I was able to pour my paints on and turn my canvases in various ways to get the paints to go across the canvases. Now, as I mentioned earlier, drying time with these, it takes a while. And one of the things that you learn over time is to try to get the paint to spread so it stays thin enough so it dries evenly. You can't hurry these as far as drying is concerned, because if you have thicker areas of paint just because of the way the paint lays down and it dries too fast, you're going to start to get some cracking. Sometimes the cracks look cool and you want to keep it, but I've done pours where I've gotten a little heavy on the paint and I haven't spread it thin enough and it's dried and it's cracked, and basically it becomes an unusable canvas and I've had to start over again. So I have the two paintings here, both done with the acrylic pour in a fluid style to allow those paints to spread over the canvas. And we're going to just let these set up. And as I said, I mentioned just a few seconds ago, when they're completely dry, I'll hang them on the wall so that when we do the next Art by Rick show, you'll be able to take a look at these when they're dry and what they look like when they're hanging on a wall. So my name is Rick, and this has been Art by Rick. I thank you so much for tuning in and watching, and I hope that you'll join me the next time when we'll create something different. Take care. And paint.
Hi, I'm Jay McCormick, a board director at Nutmeg TV, your local public TV station right here in Farmington. Nutmeg TV has been an integral part of our community for over 30 years, providing a platform for residents to share stories, voice concerns, and celebrate achievements. It's a vital resource that connects us all, bringing countless local events to our TV screens. The topics are limitless and vary from being aware of scams to veterans helping veterans. Nutmeg TV continues to be here for the community. To continue this important work, we're asking for your support through a donation. Your contribution will ensure that Nutmeg TV remains a robust and relevant resource for our community. Thank you for supporting Nutmeg TV. Together, we can continue to amplify the voices and stories that make our community unique and vibrant.
To make a donation, simply visit our website at nutmegtv.com or call the office at 860-321-7405 for assistance.
Nick Augustino right here at the Eastside Restaurant. We always have the complete full dinner menu. Knockwurst, bratwurst, sauerbraten, potato pancakes, red cabbage, rice pudding, cream pies, all the desserts that Germany had to offer. I always do something different. Yes, I do. I brought seafood to the beer garden at the Eastside Restaurant. Eastside Restaurant, your German destination restaurant in Connecticut. Tiki-taka, hoy, hoy, hoy!